Hey, good evening, guys. This is Andy here, aka Montolio, and we're in a vintage queue here. We're just saddling up for the VSL next week and playing a little bit of White Eldrazi. We 5-0'd with this list a little bit earlier, and we're going to take it for a spin again. I'm finding White Eldrazi to be quite a good metagame call right now, as it's got a really good game against PO. And, with all the disruption, the Thalia is incredibly difficult for them to beat, as well as it's got good game against Dredge with the main deck, Dredge and Oath with the main deck. Containment Priests, and of course it's good against any type of Xerox build. A little bit weak to workshops, but certainly can beat it. Having said that, one of the problems with Eldrazi, White Eldrazi, is the inconsistency of the deck, and particularly around the land base. So we have to ship this one back. There just is nothing there. And this, unfortunately, if this was a Thalia, this would be an amazing hand. Unfortunately, I do not think we can keep it. I'm pretty sure our opponent is on Storm. So he has mulliganed as well, he or she. I do think we have to ship this one back. Okay, this one's a little bit slow. We're going to keep it and hope that they don't have too much going on. We will put that on top. I do have to get down the Thalia first. Probably should have led with the Temple there, because now they definitely know what I'm doing. But hopefully they just have a fair start. Mox Opal, okay. And that is fairly reasonable from our opponent. I mean, the fact that they can't use the top this turn is pretty important. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, they really do have a lot of difficulty with Thalia because they can't bounce Thalia. They may have, a Miser's Chain of Vapor or a Repeal or something in their deck, but it's not easy to come by. So this is pretty good. We're going to be able to smash in here with a Reality Smasher unless they can counter it. And we're going to have them dead in pretty short time here. Now if they fetch, they're dead next turn if they can't counter what I'm doing. And I'm suspect that they can, but we'll see. I've really been, I guess, off of workshops for quite some time now, probably bordering, 6 to 9 months. I really have not felt good about it with the rise of Paradoxical Outcome, which is most certainly one of the most predominant decks on Magic Online. We're gonna make this Eldrazi here. I'll come back to my thought in just a moment once I got this all wrapped up here. And that's exactly lethal. I just find that Workshops is just so easily disrupted by Hurkyl's Recall. And sure, look, Workshops is still a tier 1 deck. There's no doubt about it. But, I just don't have a winning record anywhere near it, actually, against Paradoxical Outcome. You have to be on the play, and you have to, have the Sphere with the Chalice or, a Trinisphere or something like that. It's very difficult to aggro them out. And if you do aggro them out without disruption, then your PO opponent has kept a stinker. And so my point being is I just find it's very easy to reset a Workshop player with Hurkyl's Recall, and playing things like Witchbane Orb is just not good enough, and it's not what we're wanting to be doing. Certainly Leyline of Sanctity is better, but of course that comes with the risk of if it's not your opener, you can't cast it without the Lotus. So I just have not felt good about Workshops. I also feel like Workshops struggles against certain types of dredge hands. You know, particularly the hollow ones where you're bringing in all your hate, and you know you can just get rolled. And of course, it's not a blowout by any means against things like Jeskai. So shops has become more on the fair side of things for me. And one of the things that I've always found very attractive about Eldrazi is Cavern of Souls. Cavern of Souls is definitely one of the best cards that you can play, in the sense that the high majority of decks are blue, and a lot of them sit back on cards like Force of Will, and being able to get through them with a Cavern is incredibly powerful. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, Thalia 1 is so strong against all the combo decks. Lightning Bolt is not really that in style right now, or STPs. A lot of people are really playing PO out there, and they just can't beat it. They have to have an incredibly good hand or a turn 1 on me in order to get by Thalia. And anyways, I like this deck, and of course the Thought-Knot Seers are very powerful because it disrupts their hand. And as you just saw, Reality Smasher, despite it's one of my least favorite cards in the deck, certainly can be very powerful. So we're trying to do a little bit of a different sideboard configuration from what I was playing earlier. And by no means is this intuitive here that it's correct. I'm just really playing with things. But, Stony Silence, goes without saying, is a better card than Null Rod because it can't be Hurkyl's Recall. A lot of our deck is artifacts, unfortunately. What do we want to get rid of here, guys? I think I'm probably going to get rid of the Eldrazi Displacers here. Yes, I can get a Blightsteel Colossus, but the idea behind it is to slow them down a lot. And I realize that Kataki is not very good in our deck, but when they're on the play in particular, sometimes you can catch them with their pants down. So let's see how this goes. Yeah, Stony Silence doesn't get bounced with Hurkyl's Recall. And most players are going to be siding in Hurkyl's Recall. So exact opposite from what we saw last hand. We're just all creatures. So we're going to mulligan this one. Go for something a little better. Okay, this is perfectly reasonable. We got a turn 1 Null Rod. We definitely will put the Cavern on top. Just got to survive, right? We don't want to get turn 1. Library, totally fine. So, taking a bit of damage doing this, but I think it's worth it. We're going to take 6 damage really before we've got anything going here. Next turn we're going to have the Thalia out, and the following turn we're going to have Thought-Knots here. So let's see here. My opponent did not draw a card off Library. I'm incredibly surprised. Well, we're going to... Thalia is more important to be able to resolve, as far as I'm concerned here, than the Thought-Knots here, despite I like the Thought-Knots here. I'm shocked my opponent played Library and then proceeded to not draw a card off it. Really bizarre. Not sure. Well, that must have been a mistake. Okay, Mox, so that gives us a target for a Revoker. Of course, we got Null Rod in play, but Kataki. Kataki's not doing much for us here. So let's pound in here. And we're going to play a Thought-Knots here, guys. And we're going to take the best card in his hand. Twister. Paradoxical Outcome is a very good. Karn is definitely solid. He can play Karn next turn. Really, I want my opponent to play a Karn. I think that's completely fine. I'm going to be able to attack the Karn, and then he's going to be incentivized to play out his artifacts. Paradoxical Outcome doesn't scare me that much. I think I'm just going to take the Twister here. Please feel free to leave me comments as to what your thoughts are around that. Twister's just a card that is going to give them a moderate amount of fuel, and I'm not interested in that. I've got all the tools I need here. Yes, so exactly. They're putting out their artifacts here and trying to set up a paradoxical outcome, and we're going to lead out with Kataki. So this will likely be are they not playing the Sensei's top? Oh, interesting. Well, let's get in. They have one unknown card in hand. I'm not sure what that is, but we're going to tax their stuff here for sure. And yes, we're going to have to pay, but I think that's just fine. Oops. Karn, Scion of Urza. Can't do anything with that now. Hopefully it doesn't have a Herx. And I mean, making him pay for this just must feel awful. Nope, just lets it go. I don't. Yeah, I guess we were in game 2 there. That one was pretty easy.